Today we start talking about Arsenal, about the goalkeeper situation. Arsenal have agreed a deal with Meslier, the goalkeeper from Leeds United, now available as a free agent. Agreement done between Meslier and Arsenal on contract terms, and so he's ready to go to Arsenal, eventually to be second or third goalkeeper. We will see that, depending on Kepa, but Meslier said yes to Arsenal. Don't forget about Arsenal, about the winger, because Arsenal will sign an important winger in this summer transfer window. That's for sure. I told you several times. It's not in doubt, and it's not based on who is going, who is staying. In any case, Arsenal will sign a top winger. Arsenal want to sign Morgan Rogers. The agreement with the player, from my understanding, is quite close. It's something that Arsenal see as close, not a problem. But Aston Villa start at £130 million. This could be eventually negotiated. We will see. But Aston Villa start at £130 million for Morgan Rogers. So very expensive. We have to see what's going to happen in the club-to-club conversations. But Arsenal are working on the Morgan Rogers deal as a top priority. Many questions today again on Barcola. Barcola is also appreciated by Arsenal, but is not position number one. Position number one is Morgan Rogers, position number two is Barcola, and there are more options in terms of wingers. So that's the situation at Arsenal. Then, important to mention, for Paris Saint-Germain, is not untouchable, because the new contract talks are completely on standby, stalling for a long time. So Barcola PSG, at the moment there is no agreement over new deal. And also, important to say, PSG would ask important money. So who's going to sign Barcola? It's not just about the interest, it's also about the package of money they're going to present to Paris Saint-Germain. So that's the situation. Don't forget also that PSG are selling Kang-in Lee to Atletico Madrid, and that Paris Saint-Germain are going to attack again for Magnus Akliush, without forgetting also the situation of Yann Diomande. So that's the story around some of these wingers.
Welcome back to Arsenal Talk Vault, the channel that digs past the headlines and gets you the full story behind every piece of Arsenal transfer news. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because this summer is shaping up to be one of the most important transfer windows in the club's recent history, and you will not want to miss a single update. Let's get into it. Arsenal have made their priority signing crystal clear this summer, and his name is Morgan Rogers. The 23-year-old England international has emerged as the Gunners' #1 attacking target, and according to the latest reporting, Rogers has already agreed personal terms on a deal that would keep him at Arsenal all the way until 2031. That's a long-term commitment, and it tells you everything about how the club sees him, not as a short-term squad boost, but as a genuine long-term piece of Mikel Arteta's project. What makes Rogers such an attractive target isn't just his age or his current form, it's his versatility. This is a player who can operate as a left winger, drop into the number 10 role behind the striker, or even sit deeper in a midfield role when needed. In a modern Arsenal squad that has often been stretched thin by injuries and fixture congestion, that kind of positional flexibility is gold. Arteta doesn't just want good players. He wants players who can solve multiple problems at once, and Rogers fits that profile perfectly. But here's where it gets complicated. Aston Villa are not interested in a discount. The club is demanding a fee in the region of £100 million to £130 million, a genuinely massive number for a player who, while talented, is not yet an established Champions League level superstar. That valuation tells you two things. First, Villa know exactly what they have in Rogers, and they are in no rush to sell cheap. Second, it tells you Arsenal are going to have to be strategic, patient, and possibly a little bit stubborn if they want to get this deal over the line without breaking the bank completely. The two clubs are already in negotiations, and Arsenal are now preparing to submit their official opening bid, a move designed to test Aston Villa's resolve and find out just how firm that asking price really is. Opening bids in these situations are rarely the final number. They're a starting point, a way of signalling serious intent while leaving room to negotiate. Expect this one to run for weeks, not days. Now, here's the thing that makes this transfer saga genuinely fascinating. Morgan Rogers is not Arsenal's only option, and the alternative name on the list plays in a completely different market, with a completely different price tag attached. That name is Bradley Barcola, the Paris Saint-Germain winger, and Arsenal are actively exploring a move for him as a primary alternative to Morgan Rogers. Where it gets interesting for Arsenal fans, reports suggest Barcola himself favours a move to Arsenal over a switch to Liverpool, even though Liverpool are believed to be tracking him as well. Of course, any deal is going to depend heavily on what PSG decide to do, both in terms of their broader squad plans and the price they're willing to accept. According to BBC Sport, Arsenal are expected to step up their interest in Barcola this week after receiving encouragement that the French forward could actually be available this summer. That's a significant detail. It's one thing to admire a player from a distance, but it's another thing entirely when you start getting signals that a move might genuinely be possible. In fact, representatives from Arsenal, who have already been tracking Barcola for some time, are planning to watch him again in person during France's World Cup last 32 match against Sweden. That's not a casual scouting trip. That's a club doing its due diligence on a player they're seriously considering. Now, why would Arsenal even need a plan B when Rodgers is clearly priority number one? Simple. The numbers. Barcola's current contract with PSG runs until the summer of 2028, which means, contract-wise, any move for him would likely cost significantly less than the reported figure for Rodgers.
Whose Aston Villa deal runs all the way until 2031. In football, contract length is leverage. A shorter remaining contract generally means a lower valuation, and that could make Barcola a much more financially sensible route if Villa refuse to budge on their asking price for Rodgers. There's also a subplot worth watching here. RB Leipzig forward Yan Diomande is reportedly in the process of a move to PSG, and that transfer could have real implications for Barcola's future at the club. If PSG are bringing in fresh attacking reinforcements, that increases the chances they'd be willing to let Barcola go, which is exactly the kind of situation Arsenal's recruitment team will be watching closely. And if PSG do decide to listen to offers this summer, Arsenal will be right there among the interested clubs, with Liverpool also believed to be in the race. So let's zoom out for a second, because this really is a fascinating situation for Arsenal to be navigating. On one hand, you have Morgan Rodgers, a player who's already agreed personal terms, who fits Arteta's system perfectly with his positional versatility, and who represents a genuine marquee statement signing. The problem is the price tag, and the fact that Aston Villa hold almost all the leverage in these negotiations right now. On the other hand, you have Bradley Barcola, a player who reportedly prefers Arsenal, who comes with a shorter remaining contract and therefore a friendlier price point, and who offers proven Champions League pedigree from his time at PSG. The trade-off, of course, is that any deal depends entirely on Paris Saint-Germain's own squad planning, and that's a variable Arsenal can't fully control. What this tells us is that Arsenal's recruitment department is not putting all their eggs in one basket. They're building leverage of their own, showing Aston Villa that if the Rodgers valuation doesn't come down to something realistic, there's a genuine alternative waiting in Paris. That's smart business, and it's exactly the kind of layered transfer strategy we've seen Arsenal deploy in recent windows. The real question now is timing. Will Arsenal's opening bid for Rodgers be enough to get serious talks moving with Villa? Or will the £130 million valuation push Arsenal to accelerate their interest in Barcola instead? Either way, this is shaping up to be one of the defining sagas of Arsenal's summer transfer window.